I'm Dr. G, and for the past 10 years of my life, I've been passionate about all things holistic healing. I've been committed to healing myself and others from the inside out by incorporating some of the most effective modalities for healing the mental, the emotional, and the physical. I've learned that they give us the opportunity to be our most authentic and powerful selves. Heal Thyself is a show dedicated to just that. Today's show is going to be incredible, and I say it every week, of course I do, because it is incredible. Knowledge bombs of digestible information to empower and create clarity on what the highest version of us looks like. Product reviews to provide informed consent so you can buy the safest and best products out there. Better than the first two that I spoke about, and you're getting other B vitamins, which are energizing, right? Get off of it, throw it away. And special guest segments with some of the brightest and most elite minds in their field.
So what is that like on my nervous system? 6 hours of holding that emotion.
Here's the earth. Here's the mechanisms and mechanics of an earth when it breathes. We would think much different about that asthma patient that shows up.
All to create change in all the parts that make you, you, so we can start healing ourselves and each other. All right, everyone, welcome to Heal Thyself for the new year. And I got to tell you, I am feeling refreshed. I had COVID, just like everyone did. So many people. When I left LA, got it here. And then when I went to New York, got it there. For me, it was, in my experience, felt like a cold. But then right after, as I was quarantining, as we saw the CDC change their guidelines, got to go to Mexico and feel refreshed. And I feel so good, man. And what I noticed, it's just incredible. You know, one thing about being on vacation is your nervous system is relaxed. You don't have to do all of the things that you don't really necessarily want to do throughout the day. You're off of work. But two things that I noticed on vacation that was really, really helpful was walking. I made sure that I was walking 10,000 steps every single day. I was measuring it at the end of the day. And that was so helpful because I didn't work out once in 2 weeks, but it was so helpful for all the food that I was eating, keeping me in balance, getting me to sleep because I know I had some sort of exercise, and sun. Now, when you go on vacation, not every place you go is going to give you sun, but man, that Mexican sun, I felt refreshed. I felt good. I was thriving. I was vibing. So a reminder, two things, make sure you're walking a lot. We chose to not use taxis as much as possible in order to get the most amount of steps. So I'm refreshed and I feel good, and I hope you all do too. And I hope you had a really wonderful holiday and New Year. What I want to talk about today, and we have amazing guests coming on in relation to this Knowledge Bomb segment. A lot of people want to have kids this year or a kid. And I want to talk about how to optimize your fertility in the context of the top 3 ways, the top 3 things. Remember, we talked about the principles of medicine is giving the body what it needs and removing all of those obstacles to healing. Now, I'm going to talk about the 3 things that you need to do, fellas and moms out there, future moms out there. 3 things that we need to do to optimize our chance of getting pregnant and having a healthy pregnancy. Super, super important, okay? And our special guests are 2 midwives coming from the Tourmaline Collective in San Diego, which I visited last year to see what they're doing. And it's an integrative center, really incredible place that helps moms preconception, during pregnancy, and post-partum on how to have a healthy overall experience. And it's so important, right? Because it starts early on. So we're going to get some beautiful information about what midwifery is, how we can access it, what are some of the myths behind it, right? Is it safe? Can we go down that route? Why aren't we all doing it? So we're going to learn all about it, going to iron out a lot of these wrinkles and really find out how powerful it can be. All right, without further ado, we're going to get to this Knowledge Bomb segment. But before we do, I want to give a little love to our sponsors. Hey everyone, I want to talk about Birch Living. I've been a partner and working with them for some time. They've been so generous with Heal Thyself, and I'm a major, major fan. For me, sleep, one of the top interventions for overall health, so important. I'm excited to talk about Birch on my show. Birch is a premium mattress in the box company It makes mattresses and sleep products that are stylish, comfortable, and environmentally conscious. This we know. They're organic, non-toxic mattresses. They're made in the United States of America. And recently, I was introduced to the Birch Natural Luxe mattress. This is the upgrade from the original, the well-loved Birch Natural mattress. And the Birch Luxe takes comfort, luxury, and safety to the highest level. It's crafted with responsibly sourced and sustainably produced materials. Organic cashmere, organic New Zealand wool, fair trade cotton, and 100% natural latex. It has 8 different layers, and the Luxe was specially created with breathability and support in mind. So these natural materials allow for increased airflow and keeps you cool and comfortable throughout the night. Its natural non-toxic latex relieves pressure points in your body and has targeted zoned lumbar support, which provides enhanced contouring. So you're sleeping better, like on a cloud, basically. And the mattress has over 1,000 individually wrapped steel coils that help cradle your body and limit motion transfer. So if you have a partner and you wake up really easily, it's going to be really helpful for you. So the Birch Luxe mattress has several third-party certifications. It's got the GOT certification, very important for quality. Green Guard Gold certified, very important when it comes to volatile organic compounds that you're breathing in. Fair Trade certified, Wool Integrity, NZTM, the New Zealand one, and the Forest Stewardship Council certified. So for me, I've had my Birch Luxe Natural mattress for about 2 months now, and I love it. What I love most is its breathability, especially how cool it is at night. So I have yet to sweat once on this mattress. So it's really cool. And relieving pressure points. That's what I notice. And when my partner sleeps in the bed with me, I do not wake up at all. We noticed on vacation when we went, I was waking up all night, and it's because we were sleeping on a really boxy, crappy bed with no give. It was so nice to come back home because I had such better sleep than I did on all of vacation, coming back to my Birch mattress. So with your mattress, you're going to get a 100-night sleep trial along with a 25-year warranty. If it makes you nervous to buy something you haven't tried, you're going to get 3 months to just make sure you love it. But if you don't, they'll come pick it up for you and you're going to get a full refund. And the best part about it, it delivers right to your front door, free within the US. It comes rolled up in the box and super easy to set up yourself. So me, I love my mattress. I really do think you will too if you try it out. If you're looking for a new bed, check out Birch, of course. You can click the link below or go to birchliving.com/healthyself and you're going to get $400 off of your mattress and 2 free pillows. So if you've been dreaming about a new mattress and don't want to wait any longer, until January 31st, Birch Financing offers 0% APR. Go to birchliving.com and see if your purchase qualifies for this amazing limited time offer. All right, the holidays came and they went, and now we're here in the new year. And I know that a lot of us were traveling and stressed and depleted, right? For the most part, we weren't in our routine and eating the foods that we eat. One of the supplements that I brought when I was traveling before I visited my family and going on vacation was a magnesium breakthrough. I needed to make sure that I was getting a good amount of magnesium because I knew my diet would change and I knew that my sleep pattern would change. So I needed sleep support. So Magnesium Breakthrough by Biooptimizers was one of the first supplements I grabbed from my counter and put straight into my bag. Magnesium is depleted in so many of us. A large percentage of us are walking around with low levels of magnesium, but it's critical for almost every process in the body, but especially for getting deep restorative sleep. Magnesium Breakthrough is so effective because it's organic full spectrum magnesium supplement, and it has 7 unique forms of magnesium for stress relief and better sleep, and you're all gonna get in one bottle, right? So it's not an isolate. It's all 7 forms that are helpful for different parts of the body and different systems. And go online, go check, and you're gonna see magnesium supplements are going to contain 1 or 2, maybe 2, maybe 3, but usually 1 or 2 forms, and they're usually synthetic. And most of the time, they're not even the forms that you want. You'll see a lot of magnesium oxide supplements out there that are claiming to be helpful for your sleep, when in the meantime, most of it is staying in your bowels and you're just pooping it out. So for this, you're getting all 7 critical forms of magnesium. Pretty much every function in the body is getting an upgrade or addressed, especially your sleep and your brain. It's going to help reduce stress, pain, and inflammation. So by adding Magnesium Breakthrough as part of your routine, and I do believe everyone should be taking a magnesium supplement every day or every other day. And if you're having sleep issues, you absolutely should be taking it. So this one in particular is my favorite one. You can go to www.magbreakthrough.com/DRG. And the code you're going to use is DRG10 to save 10% when you try Magnesium Breakthrough. It's the best magnesium out there. I've had multiple people use it, some in the studio. My assistant has. loved ones have, and this is the best magnesium they've used. I've been using it for more than a year now. There's nothing else like it. If you're depleted in magnesium, you will notice the difference very fast. So help support your body, help support your sleep. Go to magbreakthrough.com/DRG, and the code is DRG10. You're gonna get 10% off. All right, fertility. You remember I had Dr. Shala Salem on the show, and she's a fertility specialist. And if you're looking to have a child, go back to that show actually and listen to her segment. It was incredible. She really went into some of the things that are holding us back from our fertility. But I want to make it quick, and I really want to give you the goods on what are the 3 things you need to look out for and how you can optimize your chances of getting pregnant. All right, so according to the National Health Service of UK, about 84 of 100, having regular sex every 2 to 3 days throughout the month, they will get pregnant, right? And we know as we get older, fertility is going to drop, right? That's obvious. And there's more data showing that women aging versus men aging, the fertility or the impact of fertility is reduced in women. Furthering the National Health Service study, ages 19 to 26, 92% will conceive after 1 year, and a 98% after 2 years. But the ages of 36 to 39, 82% will conceive after 1 year and 90% after 2 years. And this is every 2 to 3 days throughout the month of having sex. These are the statistics about getting pregnant. Now, here in the US, according to the National Institutes of Health, in couples younger than 30 who are generally healthy, 40 to 60% of these folks will be able to conceive within the first 3 months. In the United States, we see that couples after 1 year of having unprotected sex, 12 to 15% are unable to conceive. And after 2 years, 10% still won't be able to conceive. So it's estimated that 1 in 10 women between the ages of 15 and 44 will have trouble conceiving. In the United States, 9% of men and about 11% of women of reproductive age experience fertility problems. And the problems don't lay all on the woman. 1/3 infertility is because of the female partner, 1/3 because of the male, and 1/3 can't be identified. But the be identified part of it, we're gonna identify, and we are identifying already. And fertility can be a complex issue, right? Because there's multiple factors that play roles for the partners, right? So for us, we really have to iron out the most important ones. Of course, think about it. We have to optimize the health, the body of the parents. We have to optimize their sperm. We have to optimize the egg. We also have to optimize the environment that the baby's coming to. The body's so smart. It's not going to want to get pregnant if the environment isn't healthy either. So as I mentioned before, we know that fertility declines with age, and it's more gradual in males than in females. So according to the National Institute of Health, women are about half as fertile in their 30s as they were in their early 20s. So other risk factors, according to the Cleveland Clinic, that increase the risk of fertility in all genders: diabetes, eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia, overexercising, radiation therapy that we see commonplace in cancer treatment, STDs, smoking, stress, substance abuse, weight problems, obesity, or being underweight. And 2 more, which I'm going to mention as my top 3, so I won't mention them yet, but they're in this list too. But what are some risk factors that impact female fertility? Abnormal menstruation, blocked fallopian tubes, of course, celiac disease, kidney disease, a past history of ectopic, the tubal pregnancy, pelvic inflammatory disease, pituitary gland disorders, such as Cushing's syndrome, polycystic ovarian syndrome, ovarian cysts, primary ovarian insufficiency, sickle cell anemia, any uterine problems that we can see, endometriosis, uterine fibroids, and thyroid disease. What about the risk factors for male fertility? The risk factors for male infertility include enlarged veins, varicocele in the scrotum, genetic disorders like cystic fibrosis, high heat exposure to the testicles, believe it or not, or tight clothing that utilizing hot tubs or saunas, increasing injury or any injury to the testicles or scrotum, low sperm count due to low testosterone, past history or overuse of anabolic steroids, premature ejaculation, testicular cancer. So amongst all of that, I didn't mention the top three because I took them out of that list, but I want to mention my top three, in my professional opinion, the most important interventions to do as future parents in order to give yourself a better playing field to get pregnant. So I mentioned again the signal to the body. The body is so smart, it knows whether or not it's safe to get pregnant and whether or not it's safe to bring a child to this world. The number one intervention for having a baby is awareness of environmental toxins, specifically those toxins that are known endocrine disruptors. Now, I talk about those a lot for a good reason, and I'm going to echo a lot of what Dr. Sheila Salem said. She had mentioned many of these endocrine disruptors are doing just that. They're disrupting our hormones, which are disrupting our sperm, disrupting the egg, disrupting conception. The most notorious chemicals that affect fertility negatively are BPA and phthalates. And those may be the most potent of all. They affect the activity of estrogen, testosterone, and thyroid. Now, BPA is found in plastic linings. It's everywhere. Plastic bottles, canned foods, the lining inside of it, children's toys, baby bottles, which was banned in the European Union in 2011 and in the US in 2012. Sports bottles, receipts, thermal paper. BPA has been shown to have a strong link to increasing hormones, particularly estrogen, which is going to affect testosterone, which is going to affect the way we produce sperm and a healthy, viable sperm. It also causes insulin resistance. And I just mentioned before, insulin resistance can lead and is a major risk factor for infertility because it can lead to diabetes. Now we see tons of data that can affect your hormones. Even at lower doses in the EPA and the FDA allow, and we also started seeing this in the 1990s, that doses lower than what's regulated are causing hormonal disruption, and it's already poorly regulated as it is. It can contribute to PCOS, which I mentioned earlier as a risk factor, and overall we're seeing a decreased egg quality, reducing the ability of the embryo to implant, reduces the embryo quality, decreasing sperm quality, reduces success rates with fertility treatments, if you're doing that, and increases miscarriage rates. So BPA is a major disruptor to our fertility. Other chemical that needs to be put in the spotlight is fragrance. This is found in perfumes and colognes, shampoos, conditioners, soaps, lotions, plug-ins, candles, detergents, fabric softener, cleaning supplies. If you're planning on having a baby, all of these need to go in the garbage, right? Fragrance is a major disruptor to your hormones. And we know that the fragrance term can encapsulate 300 plus chemicals. Along with that, many fragrances contain a specific endocrine disrupting chemical with them. And I mentioned it earlier when I mentioned BPA. It's phthalates. They're intimately connected, chemically connected, and it's a major problem for fertility. And this is found in toys, vinyl flooring, and wall coverings, detergents, lubricating oils, food packaging, pharmaceuticals, blood bags and tubings, yes, personal care products, nail polish, hairsprays, aftershave lotion, soap, shampoos, perfumes. It's everywhere, right? But these are toxins that are known to affect your reproductive system. And they disrupt that delicate balance of hormones, especially estrogen. And these chemicals like BPA can throw a monkey wrench into ovulation. Like BPA can reduce egg quality and cause harmful development of the eggs. It increases overall loss of pregnancies. And fellas, if you're listening, this chemical can alter your sperm through inflammation from the oxidative process. This chemical is nasty. And also I want to bring to the awareness another toxin, and it is radiation. And you'll remember if you go back on my Instagram, I did a very specific reel on studies showing men, this is for men, cell phones put in the pocket is reducing sperm viability, right? Sperm quality, the concentration of the amount of sperm, their motility of how well they're swimming. So we need to be very aware, fellas, if we're trying to have a baby, you got to get that cell phone out of your pocket. And if you are having it in your pocket, put it on airplane mode. Okay, that was number one. Number 2 and 3 can be interchangeable because they're just as important. But number 2, I put is diet, right? You got to dial in your diet if you're trying to have a kid. Standard American diet, we know, is super inflammatory, can disrupt your hormones, your eggs, your sperm. We're also nutrient deficient. Yes, even in America, we are nutrient deficient. We are well fed, but we are poorly nourished. So what are some of the most important foods that we see in studies for fertility? Folate-rich foods, not a surprise, but for men, very important nutrient for healthy semen. For females, very important nutrient, and I'm sure you know this, to help form the neural tube. Folic acid or folate is very important because it can help prevent major birth defects, especially to the baby's brain and their spine. Another important nutrient is omega-rich foods. You got to get those in. If you eat meat, it can come from fish. If you don't, or if you do and still don't want to just eat fish, nuts and seeds are a healthy source as well. And this is a nutrient that's very important, fellas, for adequate, healthy sperm. And ladies, it's very important because during pregnancy, it is critical for a building block for the fetal brain and their eye, their retina. Omega-3 fatty acids also play an important role in determining the length of gestation and preventing perinatal depression. Did we know that? Very important. So make sure you're loading up on this if you haven't been, or just balancing your diet. And I'll go a little bit more into some other interventions that we can do dietarily. You got to get enough protein, even before you're pregnant, right? You got to make sure. So women out there, make sure you're eating a good amount of clean protein, you're active, and you're eating at least 80 grams of clean, good, healthy protein, whole food sources, always before protein powders. But it's essential, right? Because when you do end up getting pregnant, it's so important for the growth of the baby, the tissues, the organs, DNA, immune system, everything. It's a healthy building block for blood even, right? And that's vitality for you and your child. What you want to do is make sure you're getting a mix of vitamins and minerals. It depends on the person what you need more of, but you can rest assured that if you're getting a good variety, you're in a good place. So make sure you're getting a lot of fruits and vegetables, all the colors of the rainbow. It's a staple of your diet. If you have the ability, I would recommend working with a naturopathic doctor or functional doctor and working with them before you get pregnant, because they can give you a nutrient panel and really analyze what particular nutrients your body needs before conception, right? During, when you're pregnant, and post-conception to avoid postpartum depression or even helping you with lactating. So very, very important that you're making sure that your nutrients are dialed in. And also they can just help lead you to whatever individualized foods you need to be eating. On top of that, I did mention toxins before. They can test you for toxins. They can show you what your highest exposures are, and they can help you get that out of your body, remove the sources, and help you with your natural detoxing. So super important stuff. Now, aside from omega-3s and healthy fats and folate and protein, you're definitely going to need make sure you have adequate amount of calcium, vitamin C, vitamin A, iron-rich foods, and fiber-rich foods. Your doctor may also give you really good quality prenatal, and shout out to the Swell Score store where we have the best prenatals on a side note. But speaking about fiber-rich foods, it does lead me to a very important point about the microbiome in pregnancy, right? It has to be optimized before you get pregnant. And this is for men and women, right? Both parents, if you're listening. The body of both the parents need to be healthy enough to give the signal that it's safe to reproduce. And a healthy gut translates to healthy metabolic balance, which translates to healthy metabolic signals. And it tells your body and parents that the world is safe and it's healthy. A healthy gut translates to a balanced inflammation in the body. And that's translating to healthy metabolic signals as well, and telling the parents in the world and the body that it's safe. And healthy gut translates to healthy hormones. Very, very system that is so important and delicate, but so important in fertility. And it tells the body that the parents are healthy and the world is safe. So really, really important that the gut microbiome is focused and we're giving it the most amount of love we can before getting pregnant. Another important role that the microbiome plays is making sure you have healthy nutrient uptake, right? It's reducing inflammation in the gut. And then where you're absorbing nutrients in the small intestine, it's helping those nutrients get absorbed. Strengthens the body for pregnancy, both the sperm and the egg. So really, really important. And we're actually seeing small studies now that are showing, they're identifying what particular bacteria, healthy bacteria, the good bacteria in the gut, have a role in fertility. And bifidobacterium has been one of them. So you want to make sure that if you plan on getting pregnant, you and your partner, you want to make sure you open up that refrigerator and you have a good amount of fermented foods. We recently just did a show on fermentation, and we learned kefir, milk kefir. It doesn't have to be dairy. I drink coconut kefir. Should be in the fridge. Sauerkraut, right? Kimchi. All of these should be in your fridge if you plan on getting pregnant. But also, you're following through by having a good amount of fiber. You want to make sure you have fiber-rich foods. Look up, go on Google, even if you can right now, and type in prebiotic rich foods, go to images and look at all of the foods that are prebiotic rich, right? You'll see things like jicama, you'll see things like leeks, scallions, onion, all of leafy greens, apples, amazing stuff that you have access to. You can go to the farmer's market, grab them, but load up your refrigerator with not only color and variety, but make sure you're focusing on those prebiotic foods and fermented foods in there and helping build that good, healthy microbiome. It could take up to 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. So it's always good to get a head start if you're planning on having a kid. And I'll say a side note, if you are a vegan, you can have a very healthy conception, pregnancy, and child. You just may need to work with someone if you are not educated in this, okay? Number 3, which I said could be number 2, it could even be number 1, is alcohol. If you plan on having a kid, you got to stop drinking alcohol months before, minimum. And for me, it's one of the biggest toxins. It is an environmental toxin and huge disruptor for fertility. And scientific evidence is showing the impact is significant. And it's any amount of alcohol. There's no safe amount of alcohol. We know that in general, but when it comes to fertility, there's absolutely no safe amount of alcohol. So men, it disrupts your hormones. The worst of them being beer. It increases estrogen, reduces testosterone. It affects the quality of your sperm. It disrupts DNA. It can increase the percentage of your sperm that have DNA fragmentation, damage, or even apoptosis, which means the cellular damage and the cellular breakage. So very, very important, men out there, that we make sure we're reducing, if not completely removing, alcohol from our diet. For women out there, if you're drinking alcohol, it will prevent proper implantation of the egg in the uterus, increases pregnancy loss, and if you ever end up doing IVF and drinking, it will increase your risk of miscarriage by 38%. So there you have it. Really important interventions, but not expensive, right? The most expensive is your time. And in your time, you create more awareness, right? Learning about what toxins you're consuming or putting on your skin or breathing in, and you can remove from your home and in your diet, that will be doing right by your body and preparing you for a healthy conception. Also, understanding what foods are giving your body the nutrients and building blocks that it needs for a healthy body to open up the space for proper conception and ultimately a healthy baby. And also knowing what one of the most powerfully negatively inflammation-inducing agents, alcohol, in there and in our diets, and how we can remove them. So there you go. Those are my top 3. And if you do have those in your life and planning on having a baby, here's where you start. Okay. So very excited. Very, very excited to have our special guest in. We're going to learn a lot about what midwifery is and how we can have a healthy, strong pregnancy and baby. All right, before we get to this special guest segment, let me tell you about our newest sponsor, and it's an awesome one. So Athletic Greens. This company was already one of the top greens out there, but it took a major upgrade. One of my close friends is leading their scientific board, and he's really, really up-leveling this brand, and it's amazing. It's amazing. So our next partner, I use it all the time. This is how I get in my greens, especially, I took a bunch of them with me on vacation, especially when I know I won't have time to get in my greens. But yeah, Athletic Greens is amazing. It is the best tasting greens I have tried yet. And I've been saying this for a very long time, even before we became partners on Heal Thyself. Super healthy. It has a mild tropical taste. But yeah, I look forward to it every morning. I mix it up in my morning smoothie. I take 1 scoop of Athletic Greens, and in 1 scoop, you're gonna get 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens for your stress. It's going to help you start your day. The Athletic Greens blend utilizes ingredients that target your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and longevity and aging. Athletic Greens is lifestyle friendly for all of my keto people out there, all of my paleo people out there, all of my fellow vegans out there. It's dairy free and one of my favorite gluten free. It contains less than 1 gram of sugar. So check it out. There's a lot of green powders that have sweeteners in there or adding in sugar. 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty tasting chemicals, no artificial, nothing, while it's still tasting good. And it's awesome stuff, right? Because it's helping support better sleep, recovery for everyone out there moving and working out. And for me, what I find the most, it helps support mental clarity and alertness. That's why I take it every morning. Athletic Greens powder is like multivitamins in a cup, right? And tons of people take some kind of multivitamin, but it's important to choose one with high quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb, like Athletic Greens. So as you know, I don't work with brands until I truly, truly vet them. Athletic Greens is a super, super good company. First, when it comes to sustainability, they're a climate neutral certified company. In 2020, they purchased carbon credits that supports projects protecting old growth rainforest. So they're dedicated into the sustainability aspect. And additionally, for every purchase, they donate to organizations to help get nutritious food to kids in need, including No Kid Hungry here in the United States. In 2020, Athletic Greens donated 1.2 million meals to kids. So super important. Now's the time to make this part of your daily routine. All you need to do is open it up and put it into your smoothie every morning. But if you don't want to do a smoothie, you could literally just put it in a cup of water, mix it up and drink it, because I mentioned the flavor is way better than every green powder that I've tried, and I've tried every single one pretty much. So to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/heal-thyself. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/heal-thyself to purchase Athletic Greens and make it part of your daily routine. So preventative care is in. That is the mantra that we work in, naturopathic and functional medicine. And in order for your body to fight against whatever life throws your way, your immune system has to be ready. It has to be strong. So that's why I want to talk about Just Thrive, our newest partner and super, super awesome probiotic. 70 to 80% of your immune system lives in your gut, that we know. 80 to 90% of Americans suffer from gut issues that you may not have known. So to help that, many people turn to probiotics. But did you know that about 99.9% of probiotics on the market die naturally when it hits your harsh stomach acid? And even though supposedly special refrigerated probiotics, they're dead on arrival. So Just Thrive Probiotics is different. Here's why. They have proprietary strains that are designed by nature to put up an armor-like shell when conditions get rough in the body. They withstand extreme temperatures, very important, and can even be sprinkled into food or drink. Just Thrive strains have been third-party clinically tested and proven to arrive 100% alive in your gut. Just Thrive requires no special encapsulation, no refrigeration, nothing, right? What you get is all natural, extensively studied probiotic. It's perfect for the whole family. It's effective at controlling stomach issues like gas, constipation, bloating. It's vegan, non-GMO, gluten, dairy, soy, and histamine free. Just Thrive Probiotic was what I brought with me to Mexico recently. And I swear I got food poisoning once. And it was overnight. And in the middle of the night, I took Just Thrive. 2 of them actually. Actually, I took 3, which is more than the recommended dose, but I know I've been taking it for a while. I woke up in the morning, gone. There was 0. It was just throughout the night. I was talking about it and thinking about it for quite a while, how powerful it was. And probiotics can actually support better skin, better sleep, easier weight management, exceptional for immune and digestive health. Just Thrive is the top of the top when it comes to probiotics, and they contain more human clinical research than any other probiotic product out there. So if you want to take a probiotic, try out Just Thrive. You're going to get 15% off site-wide when you go to justthrive.com and use the code DRG10 at checkout. All right, everyone, today's special guest, check this out. A year ago, I went down to San Diego. I went down to this amazing center. It's a wellness and birthing center. It's called the Tourmaline Collective. And I walk in and I meet some of the most amazing women doing the most amazing things when it comes to really guiding people, men and women, couples down the path, all the way from preconception to having that beautiful baby. So I'm blessed enough to have 2 of the licensed midwives with me and founders, Maral Shabak and Allison. They're licensed midwives. And we are going to dive into so many things because I've never had 2 special people with this much information on a show ready to talk about this important stuff. And for me, my interest was piqued when I learned that from the beginning to end, you're supporting women and couples to go through this process, which is so amazing because we don't see that everywhere in every single town in America. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And thank you already. I'm going to say it before the show ends for what you both do. for men and women, because it's amazing stuff. And when I was in there, I was learning so much about the team that you have is amazing. It's an integrative team that helps people and support them overall. But hi, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Thank you. We're so excited to be here and just, share this amazing knowledge that we have.
Yeah, it's a long time coming, but why don't you, I would love to know how you both got into this, first of all.
Gosh, that's such a good question. People ask us that all the time because it's not like a super mainstream profession. For me, it was really organic. It completely found me. I was at University of California, Irvine, and I was a gender and sexuality studies major. Anthropology was my other degree, and I just had a lot of classes that were about this like intersection of women's health and medicine and how we need to improve outcomes for women or basically all non-cis males. And at the time, I was commuting back and forth to LA. And I was living across the street from this birth center, which I had no idea. And I was kind of like absentmindedly talking to my neighbor about like, I think I want to do something in like women's health, maternity care. I'm learning about midwifery. There's 2 different kinds of midwives. I don't really know that much about what a licensed midwife is. That information wasn't even really accessible to me. And they were like, well, we just had our baby at this birth center across the street. You should go over there and check it out. So I walked over there, I met with the owner, and she kind of laid out to me like licensed midwives support natural normal birth, and it seems like that's the way you want to go. And she sent me to take this amazing class with Elizabeth Davis, who's a very senior midwife called Hearts and Hands in Northern California. So I took that class and just like fell in love with supporting this super normal process, which is not usually how we're taught that birth moves forward. We think it needs a high level of intervention. So they took me on as a student, and 8 years later, I own a birth center.
That's amazing. It's amazing because you were right across the street from one.
Totally.
It was like, oh, here is your purpose.
Yeah.
And it's right in front of you, and then you finally stepped into it just through a conversation.
Yeah.
I just love hearing about the synchronicities in people's lives. How about you, Allison?
Mine's very different. I'm all listening. I'm all, that's really impressive. I had 3 kids in hospital and all epidurals. Like this is how most women give birth in the United States. Yeah. And my journey started, I started a nonprofit, and we do holistic music therapy with hospitalized children at Rady's in San Diego. And we're in the cardiac and ICU. So I was always around the holistic world, saw a lot of really young kids coming in that were very sick, like 8-month-olds with cancer, and didn't make sense to me. I didn't understand why so many kids were sick. So after my third birth, I had a really bad experience. My epidural, where they put the needle in, the cerebral spinal fluid leaked out, and it makes you so sick. It was like they take blood from your arm and shoot it in your spine and create a scab. They did it 3 times, and I was sick for 3 weeks. You can't keep your head up, right? You have to walk like this if you're walking. And so you're on a lot of pain meds. I got a really bad breast infection, and my son couldn't nurse, and he was sleeping, and it was miserable. So when I got pregnant with my 4th, I was like, so I will never let anyone touch my spine again. Like, I could not imagine going through that. And I had never experienced unmedicated birth, so I had no idea. So I just started doing a lot of research on alternatives. There was a birth center in San Diego which was pretty awesome. It takes Medi-Cal, so you can go in there if you have insurance. Everything is covered. At that point, they were still doing home visits after. And I had a beautiful water birth, unmedicated, and it was the best experience I've ever had. My husband, being from Brazil, where they have like over 95% cesarean rate, was really nervous in the beginning, but he surfs and he loves water. He's like, this is amazing. My son's being born into water. And so we had a really beautiful experience, and I had an amazing doula, and she was a medical student, but she was doing doula work. And being around her and meeting the midwives, I was like, I know this is related to why so many kids are sick, like the way they're born prenatally, like how moms are living, their nutrition, etc. And that led me to doing research, and I became a doula myself. And then I knew that I could not do that like sustainably and raise 4 kids. So I was like, I want to start a birth center so that I want to run that. Like I am a midwife now, but my goal, like I have a lot of other business goals as far as the center goes. So that's how I got here.
Amazing firsthand experience too. I was just talking about epidurals yesterday because the person I was talking to had no idea what it was.
No one knows it's fentanyl.
Yeah, and it goes right into your spine,
Yeah, but
right
there's
in
no
there.
side effects.
There's no side effects. Yeah, so I was, and they were like, "What? No, I thought it goes right into your arm." And I was like, "No. It's a real real
in
needle."
between the vertebrae, like into the.
Ooh, I'm cringing. But okay, so can lead us down the road. What does a midwife do? How is going into that specialty or working with a midwife different than conventionally what we all know? Because what you both were talking about in the beginning, that's what I thought. It was just like before school, we just go to the hospital and you get an epidural and we have a kid. And once I started learning about that whole world, I was like, whoa, I had no idea that this is so much more natural of a way to bring a baby into the world without all of the stress and the lights and the sounds and the medications if needed, but most are not even necessarily. I saw, really quick before you answer the question, we were talking about that Ricky Lake documentary.
Yeah,
What
The
was the name
Business
of
of
it?
Being
The
Born.
Business of Being Born. I saw it in school, and I was
It's
just,
so good.
my eyes were just staring at my little iPad at the time, and I was like, whoa, that really opened me up. But anyway, I'll go back to the question. What's a midwife do?
So I feel like at its core, midwifery is holistic, individualized preventative medicine. So that's why it's so important for our clients to come in either in the pre-conception, before getting pregnant, or at the very beginning part of pregnancy, because we're trying to achieve really ideal health for that individual's body based on exactly what they're needing. I would say that's the main difference. We're not waiting with our interventions, which we do have. We're working to create a really healthy body, and because we know we're planning an out-of-hospital birth, we know that some of those like higher levels of interventions are far away. So we want to make sure our clients are doing well. So our appointments are an hour long because we're looking for really different things than what a traditional OB is looking for, right? So of course we're looking for those like basic vitals, right? We want to make sure blood pressure is not high. We want to make sure the baby is growing appropriately. But even looking at those major things, we're not just looking at like where are we in regards to our cutoffs, right? With like hypertension, that's an example I like to use because it's really clear, right? There's a line in the sand, 140 over 90. Above that, we're hypertensive. But because we're spending an hour with our clients and we're really looking at their trends in their health, we're looking at what's happening in their lives. If we're seeing a buildup of their blood pressure over several visits, we're going to do our preventative medicine. We're going to do those things before we get to that cutoff, because once we get there, there's no going back, right? We have that diagnosis, everything shifts in the care. And we use our like tier method for our interventions, right? So if we see that's creeping up, we might look at their diet. Is there something we need to take out? Do we need to look at some of our Eastern medicine tools like acupuncture or Ayurvedic healing? And then our next step is, okay, we're going to go to herbs. So we have this like amazing herb wall at the birth center. They're mostly tinctures and decoctions that we make ourselves. So, if I'm seeing that go up, maybe we're going to start a hops tincture so that we make sure that we're controlling that before we get to that crazy zone. So that's really the essence of midwifery, is preventing problems so we don't have to use our interventions.
That's powerful. I mean, it's like it's the same thing we do in naturopathic medicine. It's getting ahead, prevention, and getting ahead of the problem. So, if and when they come, you're prepared. But also, they usually don't come because you're preparing from the get-go. Yeah. And I'm sorry, Allison.
No, it's fine. I was just going to add, like 75% of what we talk about is nutrition, because whether it's anemia, hypertension, gestational diabetes, almost all of those can be controlled by adjusting your diet. So instead of just risking them out, our goal is, and this is a big difference between midwifery and OB care, is we are going to put the power in their hands. We're going to empower them. If this is how they want to give birth, then they have to take control and educate themselves. We're here to support them, but it's not the patriarchal setup where we're like, we need you to do this, you must do this, and take this and this. So we offer all the same testing, we're on the same schedule, but we give them informed consent, and they choose what they want to do. And if they don't want to be compliant, I hate that word, but if they don't want to be proactive, then they might not be a good candidate for this, because it takes a lot of work. We are living in a country that this is not how we were raised. This is not our culture. Out-of-hospital birth is very rare, where in other countries, midwives are the majority of caregivers, especially for women. So it's just a really different model of care here. So it takes extra training, and you're untraining. You have to untrain you have to learn to just get rid of everything that you're used to hearing and what's normal, and thinking that it is safer to give birth in hospital, because for most people it's safer to give birth out of hospital. There is a small percentage of women, I believe it's like 17%, that should be in the hospital, and we don't ever try to touch that, and we are so happy to have that surgery and that intervention. But the majority of people, if they're healthy, it's safer because they're not on the same timeline. It's not, we're not seeing the same amount of patients, so we can give individualized care, and they have more time. Mm-hmm. They're not putting on a time clock where they can only labor so long, they can only be pregnant so long. In OB care, they're at 39 weeks talking about induction. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When there's no science behind that, it's not a safer, there really isn't. It's not a safer time. Babies should not be born at 39 weeks. First-time moms, the average mom goes into labor at 41 and 1 to 3. Mm-hmm. But we're wanting to induce at 39 weeks.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense.
And I think you said something very important, that it is safer to give birth out of hospital. So then it begs a question, why are so many of us being just led to hospital birth? What's behind that? Why? When did that happen? What, where have we lost our way?
That started like in the 50s. That's when it became it's a business. Like they just decided to turn pregnancy into an illness, and it's money.
Yeah.
And when you use scare tactics to influence people to do what you think is right, or what will benefit you financially, and also control, it does make it easier. You can see more people. Mm-hmm. But we have first-time moms that are laboring for 1 to 3 days all the time. Mm-hmm. And in the hospital, if you have 7 or 8 people, how are you going to give individualized care and not screw up, basically? Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, because of that trend in the 50s, like moving towards hospital for profit, we're kind of really lucky that like midwifery is still here with us, because there was a time where the knowledge was almost lost. Yeah. And really it was left to the Black midwives in the South, because they were serving large populations that didn't necessarily have access to the hospital. Yeah. They carried that torch and that knowledge, and like really taught even like just 2 generations of midwives before us, like re-taught this knowledge, and then now we're seeing like now there are midwifery schools, but we really were so close to like losing that, and that's so intense. And we're actually seeing that with variations of normal birth too, twins and breeches. We're starting to lose that knowledge because in California, for example, licensed midwives were not allowed to be the primary care providers for someone that's delivering twins or breech birth. We still get the training because surprises happen. Yeah. But we're really backed into a corner now.
Taken away, like 5 years ago?
Yeah, I was like, we had just started school. So that knowledge is fading. A lot of OBs don't know how to be the provider for breech or twin births. And we honestly, I don't know what that's going to look like in 10 years. Like we're going to have to regain the knowledge from other countries that don't have this fear that's not really based in science or statistics around those 2 things.
Very important, because there's a lot of fear behind it, but we believe we should be fearful because that's not based in science. And the safest way to go is through the hospital route. For a couple, let's say me and my future wife, we want to go the natural route. When she goes into labor, what happens? How does that look?
I love this question. We give this spiel all the time, because even our clients that have been with us now for months and months, and we're approaching this due time, it is still foreign, right?
There's like, what happens
now? How do I know?
They've seen like on TV, right? Your water breaks and it's like a crisis. That's not how labor works at all. Yeah. That's a really good question. So our clients, we're on call for them 24/7 from the time that they come into care. So they have access to our on-call line. So in labor, leading up to that point, we do our like birthday prep visit, where we talk about the different scenarios of how things can look like. And we talk about like when to call us in labor. And it's a little bit different, right? For a first time mom or fourth time mom, the guidelines vary a little bit because the speed is usually a little bit different. But we guide people to, if it's like a first time mom, call us when contractions are 5 minutes apart, lasting a minute for at least an hour. And so our clients are calling us, hey, I'm giving you a heads up. This is what's going on. And then we're going to go through all of our questions at that time. How's baby doing? Have you eaten? Have you slept? Those things are like game changers, right? Because for a first time mom, when contractions are 5 minutes apart, lasting a minute, we could have hours or we could have a day or two because birth is not linear. And so at that time, then we're giving guidance to the clients. Okay, call us back if your water breaks. Call us back if you have any concerns, and definitely call us back when contractions are 3 minutes apart, lasting a minute for at least an hour. And then depending on what's going on, we might even have a couple more phone calls after that, again, because birth is a long process. But we're guiding our clients through that. So really different than the hospital, where a lot of times clients feel like, oh, I'm going to go to the hospital and then they're going to tell me yes or no.
Yeah.
We're in communication with our clients. We help figure out like, yeah, it's time to get together. Let's get to the birth center. And typically we'll say, hey, we'll see you there in like 30 minutes. And then
an important part of that is the doula. So in the beginning, we require doulas now for all of our clients. And in the beginning, we were like, we were going to make it an option and encourage it. Now we require it because we have not found any reason why someone should not have a doula. Women have never until recently given birth alone, like in any tribe or any culture, any village. It was always a group of women around that person and they had support. And so doulas are just a part of our birth team. They lower statistics. They do lower cesarean and even death rate. So they play a really intricate part in this. So they're going to be calling their doula the first when labor first starts, the same time they're calling us, and we communicate with the doula. So normally they go to the woman's house, the family's house first, and they'll be in early labor and kind of setting up a plan, making sure the woman is eating, staying hydrated, emptying her bladder, all of the things that we are all trained on. They know, they do have some medical knowledge and birth experience. So the doula plays a really important part because they bring a sense of peace and security, and they also help guide the parents of when it is time to go. Because we will be on the phone several times with, no, it's still not time. It's still not
Almost
time.
there.
And they're panicking. So having a doula there, they're like, okay, everything's cool. She's here.
Yeah,
She's been through this before.
I can imagine how comforting that is to have someone who has been here and you know you're approaching that point, and someone is saying, they're at least with you and saying, yes, we're approaching it, but also, like you said, eating well, sleeping well, prepping the woman for a really, birth can be really powerful. So just prepping that whole process is really, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and the continuity too. So like Allison said, a lot of labor is done at home, right? We're getting together at the birth center in like very active labor. So having a doula that's at your home and then coming to the birth center with you, you have your person, and that continuity is so important for continuing to feel safe and secure, because we don't give birth if we don't feel safe. The body's like, there is danger out there and my baby is better off inside my body. So that comfort is so important. So then when our clients get to the birth center, we ideally have the room all set up. Sometimes things happen fast, but the medical equipment's always in the room. And we're really cautious of letting things settle when we arrive, right? So we're not in a hurry. Birth is a normal process. Our clients, bring their blankets in and put their food in our fridge, and then we do our set of vitals, right? So it's like all of this amazing holistic care and like being present with the mom, but we want to do all of the safety procedures too. And so we listen to baby with a Doppler for an extended period when we first get there. We want to establish a good, we want to know what our heart rate baseline is for baby. We want to make sure that there's good variability, taking blood pressure, pulse, temperature, and then we're just kind of hanging out. So we pop in about every 30 minutes. That's usually, depending on what's going on, that's usually how often we want to listen to baby's heart rate, because we do intermittent monitoring, which statistically has been shown to be safer for low-risk families, because with continuous monitoring, you're going to have some ups and downs, and you're going to take unnecessary steps and do those unnecessary interventions. So we do intermittent monitoring, and we're really just holding space for that, like, natural process to unfold. So if things are moving forward well, and yes, we can hear like these contractions are getting stronger, mom is becoming more vocal, we're not going to be like, okay, let's pause this and do a cervical check. Why would we disrupt that process if we don't have any questions? So we even tell our clients in advance, we'll do exams only if we have a question that we need answered, and even then we're going to explain why. We're never going to be like, it's time, because that's not, birth doesn't care about the clock.
And dilation, it doesn't, I know that's
means
what.
very little.
you start getting vaginal exams in prenatally. When you go to the OB, they'll check you, like starting from like 36 weeks to see where you're at, and it means nothing. You're taking nothing. A woman can be at 0 and then be fully dilated within hours, or she can be at 7 and then
A lot of variability.
pause. Like there's no, so we only we do things when we're going to get information that we can use to, like you said, take action.
And most of the time, honestly, when we're offering an exam, yes, dilation is a small part of what we want to know, but typically it's to figure out baby's position, because babies need to be in this kind of ideal position to come down and out. And then if we're in a position that's not ideal, then we have lots and lots of tools to shift those things. So we do spinning babies, which is a whole philosophy around different movements and body mechanics that help babies rotate to the right position to come out. We do, like side lunges and belly lifts, all of those things. Those are the main tools at our disposal to get the baby into the right position to come out. And in the hospital setting, typically, if we're not moving forward in a linear way that is seen as ideal, they're going to default to augmentation with Pitocin, which if a baby's not in the right position, they're just going to be stressed out by this additional pressure on their head and on their body, and the cutoff in circulation when we have those intense contractions, but we're not going to move forward really. So it's a long process, and we're just present for it. And we really only intervene if something is looking like it needs our intervention, it needs our help. Go ahead.
Some of the things are emotional, and one of the most common things, actually, especially during COVID, people weren't feeling safe. We had a lot of people transferring in late to care because they didn't like the regulations in the hospital. They didn't feel safe. They couldn't have their partners or support people, even doulas. So a lot of the times, instead of doing a vaginal exam or something else, it's doing a emotional intervention, like getting in there, finding out, because like she mentioned, our brain can stall labor. It can stop it if they don't feel safe. Things like sexual abuse or stress, anxiety. So we have our amazing student, Lauda, she's an RN. A lot of the times she's come in and we'll do like sound healing or just an emotional release. And then you'll see mom will just move forward. Then the baby can be born. So sometimes there's something there emotionally, which of course in the hospital, they don't have the time or tools or training to do that, but it's a really important part of labor.
Or the setting. I remember coming into the clinic, and you guys have it really dialed in. I don't know around the rest of the country, but they're like rooms, and the lighting is great, and the bed's great, and everything is set up for your nervous system to go, it's okay, it's safe. And I can imagine being under fluorescent lights and all these noises and machines and people walking by your room. Regardless of even if you're in a good headspace, your nervous system is still like, what was that? What was that? What was that?
Every alarm that goes off, like there's studies that show like the cortisol, all the adrenaline, everything that's released every time those noises happen, slow down labor, or they can cause issues.
It's just incredible that at the very least, even if we brought people to the hospital, why we haven't dialed in the environment, and I that's been a part of my process and research and working with patients is how's your nervous system responding to the environment. I talk a lot about environmental toxins, but it's also like the lighting and the air and the sounds, and none more important than when you're ready to give birth. You need to give your body the signal that it is a safe world for birth. So the woman's ready. What happens then? Where does this? You have a giant bathtub in there, biggest one of the biggest ones I've ever seen.
100 gallons.
100 gallons. So then, what happens then? We're moving them over.
Oh, that's a wonderful. I don't know. That was a really good way to put that question, because birth is actually, it's not linear, right? So there is actually no point of we're ready to have a baby now. That's
until we see
such
them
a
crowning.
Truly until we see the top of the head. Because we tend to think of it as we dilate to 10 and then we push.
For sure.
There can be an entire day between those two things happening. That's not typical, but it just happened. It just happened to us last week. Because your body is still doing the work, right? So the pushing that we see in the hospital of tuck your chin, hold your breath, and push, that's really counterintuitive to the process, because you're cutting off oxygen. So baby might struggle with that, right? If we're not breathing normally and holding our breath. We want to let the uterus do the work, right? So that pushing that comes organically is really different than what we see in the hospital. And it's really rare that that's kicked off by a provider's guidance, right? So it's really rare that we're like, we think you might be moving forward. Like, I think we're in the pushing phase. Usually we're just seeing that spontaneously take over. And we're mobile the whole time. So we might be in the tub in active labor, and then mom's like, I can't get grounded. Great, we're getting out of the tub. And then we might get back in, and then we might get out again, and then we might sit on the birth stool.
Or be on the floor on all fours.
be on the
Or hanging from
all over the place. Yes, I was thinking about that.
We have the
hammock
fabric
thing.
hanging from the
Yeah,
ceiling.
so it's not so linear. Like, the stages are there, and we really only know that they've happened after the baby's been born.
Right.
And so we're really following where the mom wants to go, and we're looking at her reaction to her environment. So a lot of people obviously want to give birth in the tub. It's really relaxing and gentle. But like I mentioned, sometimes clients are like, I can't get grounded in here. Like, I'm just floating around. I don't have gravity going with me.
Yeah.
So sometimes they'll be like, do you want to try? Like, try land. Like, let's see what we do with a little bit of gravity. And that can be at any point. It can be in active labor. It can be with spontaneous pushing. It can be in transition. So it looks really different for everybody. And then we're just kind of waiting. And once we hear like these amazing spontaneous pushes, then we're like coming in the room, and our laptop comes in the room, and we're still just charting. We still don't know how long it's going to be, right? Like, it can be 10 minutes later. It can be 5 or 6 hours later. And so, yeah, and that's a really tight, actually, it's typically more a wider range. And we're just like supervising, like truly in that time. So we're only going to give guidance with position if we're seeing like something is not working, or like the client doesn't seem like they're doing well in this spot. But yeah, they can be anywhere. They can be on the toilet. They can be.
Yeah, they really do. We
Everything's
follow their
mobile.
lead. It's really different in the hospital setting, especially if you have an epidural. You don't know when it's time to push. That's when the nurse will come in and check. Oh, you're fully effaced, like you're dilated. It's time to push. And we have a higher rate of tears and postpartum hemorrhages because you're not able to feel when it's time, because you only want to be pushing when the uterus is working. So that's one of the things we always educate our clients, because one question is, when will I know when it's time to push? Will you tell me?
Yeah.
And it's not. You're going to tell us. Again, we're empowering you. You're going to let us know when you're feeling that pressure. And everyone is different. But it's a really important part of the process, because just that one thing, letting them tell you when it's time to push, cuts down on so many interventions and losing a lot of blood. And also managing the placenta. We don't go in and take the placenta out. We wait for you to deliver the placenta. We will guide you. You know, the best position is to be squatting. That's how it's been done for thousands of years. So it's not always the most natural. It can be uncomfortable, but letting that process take place cuts down on death. Like, that is that's one of the things managing placentas. We see women that have really terrible postpartum hemorrhages that lead to blood transfusions and death. And so there's no reason to get in there and manage that unless it's a retained placenta or something, but it's a really small percentage.
Right.
So it's just having faith that these things happen, but also not being on a schedule where we want it to be done within. So, the average is delivered, placenta comes out at like 15 minutes, but it can be up to an hour.
Yeah.
And that's okay. If her blood pressure is good, we don't see bleeding behind, then we're just going to wait.
What I'm hearing a lot about is getting back to mom's nature, right? And opening the space for individuality,
Yeah.
and knowing that birthing is different for different people.
Yeah.
And the empowerment is the most important part for me, right? Because so many women go into the hospital room and everything is put in the hands of everyone else. But you are actually promoting listening to your body. Are you comfortable here? No? Then move. Like, you mean I can move? I didn't know. I thought I had to be here. But that's really powerful, again, to the nervous system going like, I'm safe. The baby's safe. I'm empowered. I'm the mom. This is my body, and me and the baby are intimately connected in this process. That's beautiful. That retains the sacredness of birth, which we've lost so much conventionally. Okay. When it comes to midwifery, what are some of the myths that you hear? Because I know a lot of people have different perspectives, but I know first visit, someone has sat down with both of you and said, hey, what about this? And you're like, okay, let me clear that up.
I think the most common myth is that we're like all hippies and like wearing weak skirts and just singing Kumbaya.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, like I have a license from the medical board, and
They don't think we're medically trained.
That's
don't
definitely
understand
the
the
biggest
medical
thing.
training.
Yeah. And even the clients that have like faith in the natural process and they're like so excited to be with us, they might not know that like we carry anti-hemorrhagic medication. We have Pitocin, Methergin, Cytotec. We have IV fluids and antibiotics. We have tools to help babies breathe. We take the same neonatal resuscitation class as the hospital staff. So I think that's the biggest thing is like just people don't realize like, yeah, we're licensed by we're the same board that licenses your OB. We're licensed by them.
But we don't have teams to default to. So we're trained in neonatal resuscitation and also shoulder dystocia, things that where the doctor is there to catch baby and to suture. But if anything goes wrong, there's another team that will come in normally. And that's us. Midwives do that. So we're always practicing shoulder dystocia, resolving that in RP. What else?
Yeah, it's
IV placement, like all of the emergency interventions that we do, we practice on a consistent basis to keep our skills up. And we even practice breech birth, which we're not allowed to do because it happens.
Case, right?
Because it happens.
The surprises,
Oh, it happens.
It happens.
Yeah.
We had one recently.
Yeah. Wow.
out of the blue.
You don't know. Like babies move in labor.
Yeah.
And until you see a foot or a butt, you don't know. And it was awesome. But luckily, we're trained. We actually have some of the most amazing midwives in the country in San Diego. We're really lucky. One of them is trains on spinning babies and breech birth, and she is the one that goes into hospitals. She's trying to keep this alive because we need to know that this is just another form of normal. Breech is not that scary. 11% of cesareans are breech births just because they don't know how or they don't want to deal with it. So we just schedule cesareans.
And one thing that's really cool about our license that kind of extends to this same thing that like we're the emergency care providers for baby and mom is that we have one of the few licenses that does extend to mom and baby. So we do get to treat that dyad, which is so important at every moment, right? So whether we're talking about the 6-week visit, looking at baby and mom's nutrition, how's baby gaining weight, all those things are linked, but also in the immediate postpartum too. So like Allison said, we're also the providers of neonatal resuscitation if we're having to do that. And we know that connection from the birthing parent to the baby is so important in those moments, right? It's not just about what I do as a provider. It's about a parent calling their child to earth.
Yeah.
And another huge difference with care at a birth center or home birth is that we don't clamp and cut the cord right away because as long as that placenta is attached, you're getting amazing oxygenated blood from mom's circulation to baby.
More than half of the baby's blood is still in the placenta when they're born.
Yeah, so
when you cut it off.
Yeah, if we're trying to help a baby come to and inflate their lungs and we're using all of our tools, why would I cut off that lifeline? I don't want to do that. So even if we're having to do those things, we resuscitate babies on mom. Even in the tub, right? We drape baby over mom's shoulder and we're able to tuck their little heads back and use our PPV device right there on mom. And we even educate our clients before birth, hey, we might ask you guys to suck out the mucus that's in baby's nose or mouth. And then we might have you give a little puffs of air because that connection, right? You're calling your child to life. We get to do that because we're not in an environment where a foreign team is coming from another room
Taking them
just for that baby, right? They're not independent. They just came from this person and they're still so deeply connected.
Yeah, we've seen a big difference when we're doing resuscitations using our equipment versus having the parents involved. Some parents, depending on the situation, are hands off, whether they're nervous. But when the parents are involved, you see baby coming back way quicker. Like we have a better response much faster.
That's a sacredness that is being taken away. This is the part that really lights me up to know that that's out there, because there isn't. I'm such a believer in energetic medicine. Actually, I am a major believer in energetic medicine and physical coming from that. But that's the energy bond right there from the get-go. As soon as the baby comes in the world, having that bond together, talking about breath and connection and bringing life. I can imagine. Have you ever had one of the, let's say the mom's partner there, whether it's her husband or her boyfriend, have a emotional response to the whole process, how sacred it is?
Yeah.
Oh, all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, I can imagine. The reason I ask is I'm imagining myself.
No, it's super emotional. Like you'll see partners that are more invested or more involved during prenatal, but when the baby's born, you see the reality of everything. Like you see their true who they are, their reaction. They might have been Mr. Tough
moment.
Guy. Oh yeah, and not super involved. But once the baby comes out, more than not, it's the partner crying. Moms cry, but usually it's the partner crying, like weeping. And it's just such a beautiful, and the way it's done, because I have attended hundreds of hospital births as well, and it's really different. So this process, it's not that it's not beautiful. It can be beautiful in the hospital.
Yeah.
But the connection, like you said, and just trusting the process and seeing their partner birth that way, it can be very raw, and it can be scary to hear or see someone you love sound like they're suffering or in pain.
Yeah.
So having faith that they know what they're doing and they trust their team. When it's done, it's just like a huge sigh of relief, and it's so beautiful. And babies normally respond in a really different way. And I've seen that personally, my 3 children in hospital versus the one that was born out. Babies are just aware in a different way. They know what's going on. They feel safe. It is quiet. If they're born in the water, sometimes they don't even know they're born yet. Like we'll have to like kind of wake them up. They come out and they still feel like they're in the womb because they're in warm water.
Yeah.
And we make sure it's at body temperature. Like all of these things we think about. So it's really beautiful how it touches partners and it changes them. And like many times, it's like I can't imagine doing it any other way. Like
One of I just picture how sacred that process is. It's got to be so beautiful. And in school we didn't see anything like that. So I would yeah, you guys should come out with a documentary. That's what you guys. I was just thinking about.
we always talk about that.
Right?
This is Ashley's goal. She's like, we're going to do a documentary or a reality series.
Yeah.
To make it more normal. That would
We
be
need
really
that.
difficult, but it would be amazing, like for people to see how this is, because that's our goal, is to normalize birth. It shouldn't be scary. We need to take it serious, like you do need, especially when it's not normal. Like we need to understand how important nutrition is, your mental well-being, your relationship, your environment. Those are really important things. But it shouldn't be scary.
No.
And it is. And that's the question we get every time we're doing an interview. It's like, so what happens if something goes wrong? What if she's bleeding too much? And I've asked my clients several times, like, do you ask your doctor that when you're touring a hospital or you're interviewing a doctor? Like, do you say, what happens if my wife is bleeding too much? It's not a question you're going to ask. First of all, a lot of doctors, I don't know if it would be insulting to them or maybe they just don't feel comfortable asking, but clients don't ask that when they're in a hospital environment.
Right.
They always ask us. So it's cool we get to explain. Like it is, we are trained. It is a safe, we have a plan. We have a backup plan. We do utilize our medical knowledge and we call 911 if it's needed.
Yeah, and that's the biggest myth that you busted, because there's a lot of people who are like, okay, well, what if something goes wrong? You were mentioning the training that you have and the therapeutics that you have or the medications that you have. That's there for them. So there's already a major security blanket that they can relax on. And now they can just go about nature the way it intended.
We also know them in a different way. So already it's safer because we know mom's normal and baseline. We've got to know her throughout her whole pregnancy. So it may not be that maybe her blood pressure looks fine, but we can see that something's off. Or mom might say, I just feel like something's wrong.
Yeah.
And we listen to that and we will honor that. If she doesn't feel like it's safe anymore, then we're done.
Yeah.
And that's something different different from the hospital setting.
I love that. To go back a few steps, you work in the beginning, even from the fertility aspect in the center, right? Preparing mom and dad for this process, which is so important because a lot of fertility docs will really put the microscope on mom. And earlier in the segment for the show, talking about all the things us dads really need to start watching out for early on, years before even conception. So I love that you all doing that. You work with a diet big time, right? Do you find that most people come in eating foods that are not conducive to conception and a healthy birth?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think even our clients that feel that they're really conscious about what foods they eat, it's still not always ideal for conception or pregnancy. I think people feel like, well, my diet's like very regimented. I count this and I count this and I count this, but we're looking at, we're in a world where for women especially, like eating it's a hard topic, and we're often trying to regulate quantity and maybe are hypervigilant about that. But in pregnancy, we see more situations where we're not eating enough. Like beyond, I think a lot of clients that come to us generally eat good quality food, not always, right? Occasionally you get some people that you're really starting from baseline of establishing, like it's ideal to make food at home, like really getting that going. But we have a lot of clients that they're not truly just not eating enough, and it takes a lot to sustain the body, whether it's preconception or in pregnancy, right? You have a much higher caloric need when you're trying to build reserves in your body. And this is kind of where like Western and Eastern medicine comes together, right? It's like you have to have good chi, you need good life force, and you have to be fed to have those things to create a baby and sustain a healthy pregnancy and then have a good birth. And then through the postpartum too, I feel like a lot of times we're really focused on birth, which is obviously very important. But really anything that's happening in your pregnancy is going to have repercussions for breastfeeding in the postpartum. So we're not just planning for the birth, we're planning for then feeding a child on the outside. And so nutrition is so, so important.
So important. 100%. I found that when I was working in fertility, how poor standard Americans were eating. And I'm like, of course, your body doesn't even want to get pregnant.
Right.
You know, your sperm is not even viable. These habits of the standard American are blocking us from having so much vitality and chi, right? To bring a child to earth is so important. After the baby, I want to know something. How often are we seeing moms suffer with depression? This is a topic I was just talking about 2 weeks ago with someone because her sister got postpartum depression. How often is that? And do you all know why we're seeing so much of that?
We have the highest rates of postpartum depression in any developed country in America.
United States.
Yep.
Wow.
And it has to do with a lack of support and a lack of community. So we can go, there's two sides to it. Yeah, nutrition, like physically being ready for that is huge. If someone's not thriving, which is really hard to do. If you're not eating right, if you're not getting, it's 80 to 100 grams of protein a day for a mom to grow a baby and thrive. And when you tell people that, we have them like write down, do a diet diary for one day. And having them track, like, so one egg is approximately 5 grams of protein, like seeing if they're getting, most people are really far below that. So that's why we're preparing them ahead of time for the postpartum period. It's actually one of the most important, and it's the most difficult. Like she said, babies grow and babies are going to be born. Even if parents don't have good nutrition, it's going to happen. Postpartum, for moms to make milk and to thrive is really hard. So that lack of community where normally you would see aunties and grandmas and mom cooking, they're helping with the baby, we don't have that. Especially in this area, like Southern California is really bad. We have a lot of people that are not native here, so they don't have a lot of family. We have a lot of military in San Diego. So that's one reason we do our postpartum visits at home. So we go to their home for the first 2 weeks. So they're there. We want to go into their environment and help create that sense of safety and community. We also have the lactation counselor that will go to their home. Even our holistic therapist, she does postpartum visits in their home. So it's building the team for them. We do meal trains. We'll help them set up a meal train to make sure they have food delivered, because normally they're not eating enough, like she said. They just don't have time. They're exhausted. The partner does not get time off here, so he has to go back to work. So if they're really amazing and they do meal prep, that's great, but all this takes a lot of preparation and education. So it's the lack of community is probably the biggest reason why we have such high postpartum depression rates. And in hospital, it's going to go into like interventions and stuff. It's, it's a whole nother ball game, but this is our environment.
Just like the complete lack of follow-up in the postpartum, right? With a traditional OB, you're at the hospital for about 24 hours after your baby is born, and then you don't see anybody else. You don't see your OB again until 6 weeks. Maybe you see your pediatrician a few times in there. But again, pediatricians are not really treating the dyad, right? So they're only looking for signs of like catastrophe in babies. We do about 6 visits in the first 6 weeks of life. And then we do an 8-week follow-up physical assessments, like a well person day for mom. And then we do a 3-month follow-up. And we're still on call for our clients 24/7 in that window. So we occasionally will have a mom and a baby that need more monitoring, and we'll be at their house every other day or every day and calling and doing that follow-up. And then we get to be in the same room with the birthing person and assess their mental well-being versus, in other environments and other situations, they're just kind of out at sea.
We have a lot of clients with the subject of blood loss. If a mom has a hemorrhage, which is very common, like we can handle, she loses 1,000 cc's of blood, we know right then she might have a more difficult time with her milk, so producing milk. So right there, like just because we've talked to clients, they give birth in the hospital, they go home, they hemorrhage, they're fine. They do a CBC before they leave, their blood level's okay. But all of these things can happen. 3 to 5 days, your milk comes in. So then we're working, getting her on her iron supplements, getting her eating. There's so many things you can do to prevent these issues that are going to come up that cause such anxiety and depression because that you're not thriving. Like you need that support.
Yeah.
6 weeks is insane to be trying to navigate that on your own with no support.
Yeah, and on top of that, not even really getting good food because, you may be exhausted, taking care of the baby, and then dad's back to work. So I love that you all do the postpartum follow-up and guide moms so they feel that sense of support. Even if they don't have their auntie there or their mom's mom or their mom, it's okay because at least they have that support. I would expect that to lay the groundwork for depression for certain women, whatever population, because community is so important, nutrition is so important, feeling safe is so important, and also having the connection where you're producing milk and the baby's feeding. All of these are essential, sacred steps that need to follow through. So, I just love what you guys are doing down there.
Thank you. We love it too.
Yeah, and I do have some, for everyone listening, I'll attach some videos in the show notes that of my time down there and learning about what you all are doing. It'd be really cool. Okay, so is there anything else that you found really important that we didn't talk about that we should tell this audience who is now, many of us, the first time hearing ever about midwifery or learning more about it? Anything that we should know?
I have something that I think is really important.
Okay.
So this type of care is hard to find. Insurance doesn't normally cover it. So we started a nonprofit for that reason. So we have Thrive Wellness Collective. We function as a community center. We want to make sure if people need to see us, for pregnancy care or any of the practitioners, that finances do not keep them from doing that. So, but in general, there are some birth centers that take insurance. A lot of midwives can't though. But there's insurance, what are they called? Health shares?
Health shares, yeah.
There's one particular that I was doing research on. It's Liberty Health Share. And if you have that before you're pregnant, they cover out of hospital birth 100%.
Wow.
And they also cover like ND, massage, chiropractic. So it's a different type of insurance, but we educate people on it when we're doing preconception. I'm like, if this is what you want, like you could sign up for this insurance. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have the nonprofit and we really are trying to just make sure that people are getting lifelong care and look to other organizations because there are other organizations. Every Mother Counts is out there. And that organization was started by Christy Turlington, and they do the same thing. Like they support midwifery care all over the world. They really focus in the United States because that we have such bad rates and outcomes.
What's that called? Christy Turlington?
It's Every Mother Counts, Every Woman Counts.
Every mother counts.
Yeah.
And is that a database where we can find midwives around us, or is there a database?
No, there is.
Yeah, there is a website called See Midwives. I think it's pretty now
like
localized in San Diego. One of the reasons for that too is there is a difference in our licensure state to state. So it's been kind of hard to get like national organizations going. In California, we do also have CALM, California Association of Licensed Midwives, and you can search the Directory of California Midwives there.
Okay, so if I'm in Athens, Georgia, would a midwife have the same privileges as California, or does it really vary?
I actually don't know. Yeah, so every state is totally different. It's really interesting. So we also have our other license, our CPM, and that's considered our national license, but not every state accepts it.
I see.
And then California has an additional layer on top of that. That's why we're also licensed midwives.
It was illegal in Chicago.
Yeah, there's still some states where it is illegal to have a midwife
They just
providing
changed it.
services.
It was in Chicago. Just
Yeah,
recently?
Chicago
Okay,
just
wow.
recognized licensed
Yeah,
midwives.
but there are several other states where it's basically illegal to
New
have
York.
anyone attend an out-of-hospital birth,
Wow.
which is wild. So that's why it's hard to have like the national registries and those
Sounds
things.
like we
so
just
much
have to
for-
do our research,
Yeah.
make some calls, and for those of you listening, we now know a lot more about what midwifery entails, and then we can ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And as long as they're empowering us the way that you all are. But what is the name of the center?
Tourmaline Birth and Wellness Collective
Okay, and where is it?
in San Diego, California.
Okay, and it's integrative and it's amazing, and I went there last year, and I'm gonna put some videos up. And where can we find the website for the center, or on Instagram, or you guys, or anything?
Yeah, so our website is tourmalinecollective.com. Everyone's on there too. Our wellness providers that we refer out to are all accessible there. And then our Instagram is just tourmaline_collective. And we're constantly posting our like classes, services, education on there.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much for
Thank
doing
you.
what
Thank
you
you
all
for
are
having
doing
us.
in this world. It is a pleasure to have you here. And when that documentary comes out, I would love to just make a quick appearance, maybe walk into another circle, and we'll have a really cool moment on there. But I appreciate you both.
Thank
Thank you so much
It
for
was really
having
great.
us.
All
I
right.
appreciate it.